I'm going to do, I'm passing around our seating chart, and I'll do the road from that later. Maximize our time here. All right, guys, how's everybody today? Everything good there? Surviving. Somebody put the date on this thing. Y'all just work it that way, I think. Y'all know where y'all sit on that, right? I can pass it around. Let's see, I'm gonna try a crazy one here. Let's see here. 3, 4, 5. Pass that back, and then y'all disperse it when you come back to you, okay? Ready to go. They need to be done. We're going to every week, so you need to be doing them. Yeah, I ain't got a date on there yet, so sooner than later. Okay. Know me, I'll probably ask for them all next Friday. So I would don't be putting these off. Procrastination will be the end of you. And this one, okay, because we got a lot to cover. So yeah, I haven't put dates on them. I will put some dates on them, but I am just saying one foot ahead of each mile. So I'll give you heads up on that. Usually, now this is one of the few things that I will, because some of y'all cannot, as smart as y'all are with all this technology, I've had more trouble with the students can't figure out how to do PDF file than you can ever imagine. So, you know, whatever date that is, I will probably let you turn that. It's the only thing you can turn in late. Okay, so you can't do online homework later, anything like that, right? But I will take those a little bit late. Okay. Now, guys, real quick, for everybody who are watching for 11, we meet one time a week, 50 minutes, guys. I cannot cover all this material. I normally would have 3 meetings, right? So I came in Tuesday and did endocrine, but I couldn't get all the endocrine done. Yeah, Tuesday on Monday. So I went back to my office late Monday afternoon and finished the endocrine system. Y'all have got to go to modules and watch these videos, or you're going to be in big trouble, right? Unless you're brilliant and you can just read the book yourself, figure it out. Because I am answering most of the questions in the lecture, okay? But so today, y'all going to get probably the first half of chapter 17. And since we don't meet again this week, I only have one AMP class, AMP2 class, I'll probably have to go in and do a Zoom, private Zoom, where I just shoot the rest of the chapter. So wherever I stop at, I'll finish the chapter on Zoom and post it. So it'll be like chapter 17, part 1 of 2, part 2 and 3. And I have 3 parts for endocrine. So everything's up, 15 is up, and 16 is up. All 3, 16 Zooms, okay? So we're almost like a day behind here still. But if I can but I'm going to have to finish it on Zoom. We're not going to be able to I can't finish these chapters in 2 meetings, okay? Okay, but yes, and one of the questions the young lady here asked was, what are one of these pictures of this? Now remember, what I want you to do is write the questions out in handwriting, and then write the answers in handwriting, sign it, and take a picture of it. If you have an Apple phone, and we went through this last semester, some of y'all wasn't here last semester, the notes has a place to do it. So if you have an Apple phone, go to notes, hit the little camera part, and it says take pictures to convert to PDF, and you can shoot like all 8 pictures, it'll just be one PDF file. Or if you have an Android or something else, go get free apps everywhere. So just go into their app store and download an app to do PDFs, take pictures and convert to PDF. It's not rocket science. It's not like having open heart surgery. I promise. It's doable. Okay. And we went through all that last semester with people in lab having trouble, and then we did it also in lecture. Thank you, dear. Thank you, dear. All right. Once again, keep your face. Keep your face. Okay. An extra. Well, I'll keep it. Well, thank you. I give you an extra one, so I have one up here. I'm not done on that. All right, but anyway, so here's another one of my great favorite chapters. I really do like AMP2. Almost every one of these chapters are like bedrock chapters. I mean, like major importance, okay? So this is one today that made it super, super important, okay? We have 2 chapters on cardiovascular system. So this will be the heart. At 18, it's going to be blood vessels. And of course, in that will be blood pressure and stuff that's so important. One of the core things, one of the first check off in nursing school is blood pressure, or one of the first ones. You have to be able to do that, or you can't be a nurse. Okay, so here we go. Let's dive into it. And got some cool pictures today. Let me just kind of help them up here. Okay, so first of all, what is the purpose of cardiovascular? Now we have these core systems, right? No more than bones and all those tissues that y'all love so much in AP1, right? But anyway, cardiovascular system is the heart and all the blood vessels that carry all the blood through every cell of the body with capillary beds, and then that blood is brought back through the heart. Through the cardiovascular system back to the heart. So I'm going to do I'm going to have a little bit of fun this day, a couple of disprove some random fantasies you might have had. And here's one of my favorite ones. Did you know that the heart does not pump the blood back to the heart? So that was one of my first realities. I thought this heart pumped the blood all the way to my big toe and back. what we're going to find out is that there's very little pressure in veins, and veins are not, the blood is not being pumped by the heart through the veins. It is the contraction of smooth muscle and stuff and the squeezing of these veins that we slowly push the blood back to the heart. And that's why edema is when you have swelling of tissue fluid due to the cardiovascular system not draining it back to the heart. So the heart only pumps it through the capillary bed, as we'll see. So a lot of cool things that you thought you knew about the heart that you didn't, okay? And I still learned. This is still one of my favorite chapters. So it's going to pump the blood into the blood vessels and carry it to everybody. Now, what's going to be in the blood? All the nutrients and oxygen and the hormones and everything the cells need, right? And then they do what? At the capillary, they throw their waste products or their product that they're trying to make into the blood. So the blood is the medium by which we carry everything that's to the cells that they need and get rid of their waste. And then we got another system like urinary that filters out the waste, right? And the digestive system and all that. And then we'll also find out about another set of tubes that y'all I didn't know about, so I took this class 30 years ago. But the lymphatic system is another set of tubes that carry excess fluid back to the heart. So we actually have more fluid blowing out of the capillaries than we pull back in on the vein side, as we'll see. So real fascinating here, how these two are tied together. Now your heart, and I've been doing this for a long time, generally weighs 250, 350 grams. So go home and cut your heart out and get your drug. If you're a drug dealer, get your scales out and weigh it. You're not going to do that, right? Here's what it is. Your heart, based on your body size, is about between the size of your fist and two fists together. And interesting enough, great big people have great big hands and they have great big hearts. And little bitty people have little bit of hearts, okay? And there seems to be no difference in male and female, even though some would say, I dated a girl that seemed to have a cold, small heart, right? Okay, that had nothing to do with her body size. That was a bad joke, okay? But there seems to be very little difference. It's got to do with the size of her body, okay? Now, where's it located? Not dead center of the abdomen, right? Right in here, but a little bit to the left. So if you're aiming, to take your husband out, be sure to aim a little to your right or his left, okay? Or right here. So it's not dead center, it's here to the side. Okay, pretty cool location. Side view. Okay, now, the first big thing we're going to talk about, and I don't know why they put this in every book, okay? I just want to throw it out here. But I love these chainsaw things, right? If you ever see this in the hospital, just sitting on the mower, man, they're dead, right? This is Texas Chainsaw Massacre right through the middle of the heart, okay? And you can see you have the lungs here on the side, heart, and they cut it where you see a couple of chambers. We will cut a heart next week in lab. This week we're doing endocrine, but next week we're getting the hearts out and we're going to cut a big heart in lab. It's going to be one of my favorite dissections. I'm real pumped about that. Okay, here is a nice view showing the heart longitudinal, and notice that it has some chambers. We're going to go over all these chambers. That's my first question in just a minute. I'm going to try to pull the screen up here. If I can just write something on here. Okay, so veins are going to what? Carry blood back to the heart. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Okay, and that's kind of cool. And your book likes to color arteries red and veins blue, although that's not reality. In real life, we're going to see that when you do a surgery later on. Okay, now the heart itself has two circuits. Look at this. So it has two jobs. Okay, it has a systemic and a pulmonary circuit. The pulmonary circuit is the right side of the heart, the right atrium and right ventricle right here. The right ventricle pumps blood to the lungs and back to the heart. Okay, so it pumps it to the lungs, okay, and then back into the left atrium. So it actually, the whole purpose of the right side of the heart, which is called the pulmonary circuit, is it pumps the blood to the lungs so they can be oxidized. So one of the main purposes of the cardiovascular system in blood is to carry oxygen to every cell in the body. And so the main right side of the heart gets that achieved. It takes blue unoxidated blood to the lungs, and we get the gas exchange. Oxygen comes into the blood, CO2 leaves the blood, and so it comes back into the left atrium, oxidized, ready to what? To be pumped to the whole body, so everybody gets oxygen. The left side of the heart, left atrium, left ventricle is the systemic circuit, and that pumps the blood to every cell in your body, all the way to your big toe, down every arm, everywhere. Isn't that cool? So two big parts, systemic, left side, pumping blood to the whole body, and then the right side, the pulmonary circuit, carrying blood to the lungs and back. Now, based on just common knowledge, if we were to cut this open and look at the diameter of the muscle in those ventricles, which is the main pump, the ventricles are the part that pump the blood, which one would need to be bigger or in better shape? The right side pumping blood, maybe a foot or two and back, right, to the lungs and back, or the left side pumping to every freaking cell in the body. So when we cut it open, well, the first thing I'm show you on the lab is find the biggest hole, find the thickest muscle. You're looking at the left ventricle. And so then we do reverse logic with everything else on how to learn it. I'll show you that. This is 35 years of figuring out how to learn the heart. And then what you got to do is get your orientation, find that left ventricle, then base everything else on that. Okay? I'll go through a few more slides, and I'm going to pull up a blank screen or try to pull up a blank screen, and I'll draw all the blood flow as I want you to learn. But that's pretty cool. And I don't have time for these videos. You can watch the videos. They're online. They're also in the PowerPoint, but it's just going to switch. We won't look at this. I think actually this kind of let's wait for the blood flow. There we go. That's pretty cool.
Blood flow through the heart. We will explore how the heart pumps blood through the systemic and pulmonary circuits. In this animation, we will focus on the right side of the heart, which is sometimes referred to as the pulmonary pump. This is because its main function is to send blood to the lungs for gas exchange. We begin our journey in the capillaries of the systemic circuit. Here, the blood delivers oxygen and nutrients to tissue cells and picks up waste, such as carbon dioxide. This deoxygenated blood then returns to the right side of the heart via the systemic venous circulation. It enters the right atrium through the superior and inferior vena cava. The atria of the heart are the receiving chambers, so blood returning to the heart always enters the atria first. Also, keep in mind that the heart chambers can only fill when they are relaxed, so the right atrium is relaxed while it is filling. When the right ventricle relaxes, the tricuspid atrioventricular valve opens and blood starts to flow from the right atrium into the right ventricle. After the right atrium has filled, it contracts and more blood passes through the open tricuspid valve into the relaxed right ventricle. Note that the entire right side of the heart is depicted in blue to indicate that it contains deoxygenated blood. After the right ventricle fills, it then pumps blood towards the lungs and the pulmonary circuit. When the right ventricle contracts, the
what's the valve closed? This is a pretty good video. I haven't watched this.
The pulmonary semilunar valve opens, so blood can flow into the pulmonary trunk. A helpful point to remember is that the ventricles are the muscular pumping chambers that contract to push blood out of the heart. The pulmonary trunk splits into the right and left pulmonary arteries, which deliver blood to the pulmonary capillaries of the right and left lungs. In the lungs, the blood picks up oxygen from air-filled sacs called alveoli and drops off carbon dioxide. When the blood has been oxygenated, it will return to the left side of the heart, discussed in the next animation.
Okay. Now that's also where a COVID-19 is causing problems, that membrane, and that is preventing the oxygen from coming into the body. Okay, which is really important. If you know anybody that's had the COVID stuff, right? All right, let's try this. I'm going to write it here, see if I got a pen mark. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to start, and this is the blood flow, but I'm going to do it on this, on top of the monitor here on this, so they can see it at home, okay? So we'll start out with, I'm going to get the pen, my finger is bad enough. Okay, so we're going to start out with blood in the body, and it came back to what? It came through the vena cavas. Now there's a superior and inferior vena cava, right? And that dumped into the what? Right atrium. Now I abbreviated, y'all will not on the test, y'all write the words out. Okay, the right atrium then contracted the blood. Here's vena cava. Look, one. No, excuse me, that would be number two. Okay, number two, and then both of these dump into the right atrium, and then there is the right after vena cava, right atrium into the right ventricle, right? And I like what she said. The ventricles are the muscular pumps that pump the blood out to the body, right? Atriums are actually little bags that hold the blood when it comes back in. They're not muscular at all. They're really kind of like a little water bag to hold the blood. Okay. All right. And then the blood goes from the vena cava through our first valve right here. Here's our first valve. We're going to talk. Actually, our second valve, we had a valve here. I've already messed up. Yeah, you know me. I got in a hurry. Hang on. Let's do it over. Believe it did that. Okay. So body. Now what we're green. Vena cavas. Right atrium. And then our first valve, the what? The tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. Then from the right ventricle, we had another valve the pulmonary semilunar valve to the pulmonary trunk, or pulmonary artery. Okay, so blood came from the body to the vena cava into the right atrium, through the tricuspid valve, and to the right ventricle. When the right ventricle contracts, it goes up and closes that valve right there. Y'all see that close in the video? Very cool. And shoots it out the pulmonary trunk through this pulmonary semilunar valve. Okay, so that's half of blood flow. Now, let me go ahead and give you a little bit of side note here. What we're going to see here, and I call this in lab, and we'll do it here too. I call it the Tunica addition. Fours are wild. Okay, so basically there are three sets of four you got to know. Okay, check it out. 4 valves, 4 blood vessels, and 4 chambers. And in lab, to make it fun, I came up with 4 random things to know. So I have 16 things you got to know in lab. So there's 16 things I want you to know in lab to be able to identify on a real heart. Okay, so 4 chambers, right atrium, right ventricle. Okay, left atrium, left ventricle. And then we're going to see the tricuspid and bicuspid valve. And then we have a pulmonary and aortic semilunar valve. So we have these semilunar valves, which look like half moons, kind of like a pocket in a shirt. And the tricuspid is 3 little clouds when we dissect the heart open. Okay, now from number 7, the blood is going to go to the lungs, right, that we saw in the video. And here we saw what? Oxygen come into the blood and CO2 leave the blood. And this being the blood. Okay, that's super important. And COVID is screwing this up so oxygen can't get in. One of the first things my doctor told me that's very disturbing, because how many of y'all remember all last year they talked about gotta have more ventilators, right? Ventilators don't help people with COVID. Ventilators are for people who can't breathe. These people are breathing, they got a diffusion problem. So if they put you on a ventilator, that's the last ditch effort. There's a high chance you're gonna die early on in this, right? Because it's really not helping. What we needed was hyperbaric chambers, and there's like one in Mississippi, not Jack. But these hyperbaric chambers, you know, for people that have to go down and get the bends, get the oxygen, that it forces oxygen in. We need something that would force the oxygen into the cell, and the ventilator don't do that. Okay, so kind of a random side note for you there. Okay, so the blood then comes back, the pulmonary vein, right here, and notice it's red here. This is number 9 right there, into the left atrium. Okay, then we got another valve, the bicuspid valve, into the left ventricle. This one also has another name called mitral. So it has a double name, bicuspid or mitral valve, and this is the most common valve problem in people. So if somebody has a valve problem, almost probably a larger, biggest percent of it is that valve. Okay, you can have the other 3, but that's probably over half. Okay, then for the left ventricle, we got our last one, the aortic semilunar valve into the aorta, the largest blood vessel in the human body, which in essence is right here, and it carries blood to the body, entire body, into the brain. So it carries blood everywhere. What do you think? Now, people, there's a few things I want you to know. I want you to know this like you know how to drive home. You understand? Like, how many of y'all remember your home phone number, right? 869-5544. That's got down Mississippi. That's been disconnected for 5 years. The parents all have the cell phone now, right? So one more time. A memory burnt in my brain, right? Body, what? Vena cava, severe and inferior, right atrium, tricuspid valve, right ventricle contracts, goes out the what? Pulmonary semilunar valve, the pulmonary trunk to the lung, back into the pulmonary vein, into the left atrium, through the bicuspid valve, into the left ventricle, then out the aortic semilunar valve to the aorta to the body. Probably, I don't know if y'all familiar with several celebrities have died of aortic aneurysm. Okay, I got to go old school. Conway Twitty, great country music singer, on the road, died in like 3 minutes. Okay. Three's Company dude, the Ritter guy, he died aortic aneurysm. They say you need to be in the ER with your chest cut open when it ruptures, and they might save your life then. Because this is your main water hose, right? If it tears every time it blows, this keeps ripping. So it's a quick way, good way to die, okay? If you fix your time. But it really is quick, really quick. Matter of fact, my mother-in-law, that's what killed her right during Christmas. She had smoked her whole life. She was like 82, had a good life. And called her daughter and said, my chest is hurting, and we found her. They found her. She was already gone. So she had an aortic aneurysm that killed her in just a few seconds. But it's like I said, it's a quick way to go. And if you're young and have that, it's not good. They can't catch it early if they see it bubbling, and they can put medical duct tape in there and wrap it up. You know, they can even put a new sleeve inside the blood vessel if they catch it early enough. So there are some hope there if you catch it early. If it already tears, it's big trouble. Okay, so that's probably 5 points on the midterm test, maybe more, at least 5 points on the midterm test. Write out the blood flow through the heart, right? And now remember, one more side note here, the way I like writing like this, kind of bad. I know my handwriting's bad on this projector, but the thing that can be a little misleading about the video we just watched, because the video in my order puts it what? Linearly, what's the word I can't say today? Linearly in a line, but that's not how it works, right? In reality, it does not fire in that order. It does not go, the blood comes in the right atrium contracts and goes over here. All that's true, but while the left side is doing this thing, the right side is also doing the same thing. So it's actually a two-stroke engine. So your heart is both sides firing at the same time. Okay, is that cool? So it's actually, they're in sync. So while blood is coming into the vena cava, the pulmonary veins are filling up the right and left atrium, and then they contract, filling up the ventricles. And when the ventricles contract, watch this, blood comes back up, and guess what happens? It closes the tricuspid, bicuspid valve, and that's the first sound in a heartbeat. And then as the blood goes out the semilunar valve to the pulmonary trunk and aorta, when the left and right ventricle both relax at the same time, the blood comes back down and slams the semilunar valve, and that's the second sound, S2, in a heartbeat. So the love dove, and I've never heard of love dove. I've been doing this for 40 years. Okay, I can even go Cajun style. I hear cha-ching, then I hear love dove. But boom, love dove, whatever. First sound are the two bicuspid, tricuspid valves closing. The second sound is the two semilunar valves closing. So I'll show a video in a minute. It's a two-stroke engine, and I don't know if she shows that very well. Let me clear this out, and we'll watch the second video. Oops, I gotta cut the pin off first. Oh, shoot. Cut the pin off. Here we go. I think it's here.
To understand blood flow through the heart, we will explore how the heart pumps blood through the systemic and pulmonary circuits.
All right, I need
In
to go
this
slide forward.
animation, we will focus on the right side of the heart.
Okay, my bad. Let's go to the next. There we go. It's actually a pretty good video. But notice how it's working at the same
When
time.
blood has been
See them firing
oxygenated
at the
to
same
the
time.
lungs, it returns to the left side of the heart, which is the subject of this animation.
Good video.
Blood is delivered from the lungs to the relaxed left atrium by the pulmonary veins. Note that the entire left side of the heart is depicted in red to indicate that it contains oxygenated blood. We start with the left atrium relaxed and filling with blood. When the left ventricle relaxes, the mitral valve, also known as the bicuspid atrioventricular valve, opens and blood flows into the left ventricle. Next, the left atrium contracts, pushing more blood through the mitral valve to fill the left ventricle. When the left ventricle has filled, it contracts, the mitral valve closes, and the aortic semilunar valve opens. As a result, blood enters the largest systemic artery, known as the aorta. The left ventricle pumps blood through the entire systemic circuit. For this reason, the left side of the heart is also referred to as the systemic pump. If we take a look at a transverse section through the heart, we'll notice that the left ventricle has a thicker wall than the right ventricle. This is because it has to generate enough pressure to send blood throughout the entire systemic circuit. From the aorta, blood travels to the smaller arteries and arterioles, and subsequently to the systemic capillaries and body tissues. Here it delivers oxygen and nutrients to cells and picks up waste, such as carbon dioxide. The cycle then continues, with deoxygenated blood returning to the right side of the heart. When you understand blood flow through the heart, it will be much easier to understand the cardiac cycle. However, because we cover flow through the right side of the heart, before flow through the left side of the heart. A common misconception is that events happen on the right side of the heart before they happen on the left
It's all at the
side.
same time.
This is not true. It's essential to understand that the right and left atria, the two top chambers, contract simultaneously. The right and left ventricles, the two bottom chambers, also contract simultaneously.
Here's one of my things that irritates the crap out of me. Every book I've ever seen, they draw that the right side bigger than the left, and it's not. I think the first picture in the book 100 years ago did that, right? The right side is what? Bigger than, is always littler than the left side. And she did make the thicker wall over here, right? So remember, it's thicker. But the volume of that left side is bigger than the right side. Okay, I don't know why every time they do
Each chamber
picture, they draw it like
blood
that.
according to the normal pathway of blood flow that we just learned. Blood is being pumped to the lungs by the right side of the heart, and at the same time, blood is being pumped to the rest of the body by the left side of the heart.
Isn't that cool? Now, I will tell y'all that when I first started teaching here 30 years ago, about year 5, I was in a building over there that's torn down. And I was in a nursing building where my old building was. And a book rep came by, went out there, and I was still here like 3:30 or 4. And this is when nobody had computers. I mean, they just, like, the laptop first came out. And they had a laptop and turned it on and showed me that. And I went, okay, that changed education right there. That little video you just watched. Do you understand how hard that is to explain without seeing that video? Can you imagine how difficult that is to draw on the board? Even though y'all know how wonderful I draw. Right, little sides up there. But to try to explain that, what the blood flowing and stuff, right? That last few minutes right there, that is worth a whole lot of headaches. If it had that years ago, that last little part, right?
The cardiac cycle.
That is where it goes.
However, because we cover flow through the
So
right
it's a
side
dual
of the
stroke
heart
engine. Everybody get it?
before
Really
flow
cool?
through the left side of the heart, the common misconception is that events happen on the right side of the heart before they happen on the left side. This is not true.
That's pretty good. All right, we'll move on. All right, what do you think? That's so important to see that. So God has got a fort. Okay, we don't have any, I don't know, and I say that I should do it. Do I have a car junkie girl who likes to break engines and borrow with a dad or a boyfriend? Any mechanics in the room? Usually not the case, but it's gonna happen. But you got a 4-stroke engine here, right? Four chamber, 4-cylinder, 2 valves, two size engines, right? With 4 valves. Okay, 4-valve engine here. Okay, very cool. Very simple pump. As a matter of fact, I almost get tickled. We pay cardiologists so much money. This is not neuroscience. This is not kidney pumping. It is a little pump. But if it goes out, you're dead. But they're only 4 valves, only 4 blood vessels, right? And there's electrical on high power, and we'll get to that in a little while. But I think it's a little bit not as, I don't think it's as difficult as we pay those guys, okay? I talked about the heart rate and force is how hard it contracts, right? And how fast it contracts. They're going to both alter blood pressure, right? Talked about arterial narcotic peptide, right? They can go back and lower blood pressure and lower heart rate, right? And we have other drugs to do that. All right, we'll look at it real quick here, and we'll look at it again. It is sitting in a bag, right? A pericardium bag, right? And I thought this is another big selling point of this book when we went to it. Remember, the visceral pericardium is the epithelium on the organ, remember? And then the parietal is the epithelium covering the cavity, right? Remember that? Remember those maybe one? And so there is a pericardial, parietal pericardium and visceral pericardium. And I love this picture, really got me to use this book 6-7 years ago. Look at that. So take the heart and push it down into a water balloon. The part of the balloon touching the heart is the visceral. And the outer part of the water balloon is the parietal. Okay, so now that heart can beat and not get no friction, right? And we've all probably slid on carpet and had a carpet burn, right? Or slid in the second base, playing a little league ball, right? Isn't this kind of cool? So God sticks this heart down in a fluid-filled bag, and now the 2 membranes, the visceral pericardium and the parietal pericardium are here. Myocardium is the muscle part of it, right? So there's 3 layers of the heart. If you take a plug out of the heart, there is the epicardium, myocardium is the muscle part, and then the endocardium is the simple squamous epithelium lining the inside of it. Here it is in that bag. If you do a chest open and do surgery, so it is in that bag, and that's how it doesn't get carpet burns as it contracts. very brilliant. So if fluid builds up in that bag too much, then that can squeeze the heart right, and that can be a problem. A lot of issues here. There's the side view. So there you can see the epicardium outside. Myocardium is the muscle part, or as I like to call hot dog. And then the endocardium is single layer of simple squamous epithelium that is continuous with the blood vessels. Okay? That's continuous with the blood vessels. So it's a continuation of that simple squamous that we saw lining all blood vessels. Now, let me tell a couple of weird ones here. Just have a little fun here. So how many of y'all heard people, and I shouldn't get into it, but it's going to go up in a minute. I'll just throw it out there. How many of y'all heard about people having blockage in the blood vessels, right? That's what causes heart attacks. What if I told you that a lot of it is genetic based on how good your epithelium is? So in other words, there are 300-pound people who eat crap all the time, eat 5 fried eggs, and eat fried chicken every day, and they never have a heart attack. Because God blessed them with Michelin lining their epithelium. That layer. Other people, I know 20-year-olds have a heart attack and had triple bypass at 30, right? They're driving overwater retreads. Don't know what a retread is? Okay. If you're poor or you're a farmer, they take a tire that has no thread on it, no tread, worn out. And there are companies that go and glue on new tread on top of that. And that's fine for a tractor, in the field, driving a wagon, that's still but if you get on the interstate doing 60, 70, 80 mile an hour, it tends to throw the tread off. That's bad. And so, may you all have wonderful epithelium in your blood vessels. But if you ever have blockage, and when that's what it is, then you got garbage epithelium, and your fate is pretty much in trouble, right? Think about that. So you got to really watch everything you do and eat, right? Because you're going to have that problem. So we all have our different battles to fight. Anyway, I thought that's pretty cool because that epithelium line's continuous. That epithelium is continuous with blood vessels. Okay, moving on. Okay, the heart itself, we've already talked about these, just the parts. So here's another misconception. First time I thought about this, that heart's going to be what? Come on, let me get a pen again. Y'all know I love to draw. Let's try this. What? So I'm thinking that here's the heart. You cut it open and there's 4 chambers, right? Right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle, right? No, that's not what it is, right? You got a big old piece of meat. That's your ventricles. Here's the line. Everything here is right ventricle, and everything over here is left ventricle. And the atriums are these little bags over here, little garbage, little balloons that swell up, and they just hold enough blood to cap off the ventricles. The ventricles are the muscle. That is the hot dogs we like to eat. So when we cut these next week, they look exactly like hot dog cut up before you cook them on the grill. Your good hot dogs are cardiac muscle. Okay. So there's your chambers, and there's our 4. You can name most of. You can't see the valves here, right? What you can see here, what I want to show here is what? Now, these blood vessels. Now, let me show you another fun one here. Another misconception. Has anybody here worked in a restaurant? Oh, good. Okay, y'all just relate to y'all then. Okay, so where'd you work at, dear?
Bread and butter and vegetables.
Bread and butter. So is that like a bakery or?
It's like a bistro.
A bistro, like a restaurant. Okay, cool. Where'd you work at, dear? Huh?
Mexican restaurant.
Awesome. Okay, what about it?
It was just like a solid food.
Okay. How about you? Oh man, okay, very good diversity group here. Okay, hey, I'm thinking I want to retire and work at McDonald's, and I want to be the fry master. Have there ever been any French fries better than McDonald's fries when properly cooked and delivered on time and hot? I'm going to say there's not. Okay, those are. I mean, if I actually go by and get order them sometimes and go with it, and I buy $10, $15 thing, cook it myself. But I want those French fries. I think they're good. Now, if I'm the fry master and I'm dipping them and dumping them, I'm going to have to do some quality control, right? And grab a little snack as it comes through, right? We all do that, right? If you work at KFC, what do you get at the end of the day? You get some chicken to take home. If you work at the bakery, bread's only good for one day. You get some bread. Everybody at home, and my daughter worked at Panera Bread. Man, I got some good bread for like 6 months, but she worked there in Oxford, and then she quit. Darn it. I would have thought the heart would have grabbed a little bit of food as it pumped the blood. Well, y'all, that's what I would do, right? I actually have a friend of mine on a steakhouse, and that's what they do. Everybody that works there eats after everybody. When they close at 9, everybody eats a steak or catfish or whatever you want. So you get a meal with your 8-hour, 6-hour shift or whatever. It's a pretty cool deal. It's a private owned thing. So everybody, and by the way, they never bought groceries on Thursday, Friday, Saturday because the whole family ate for free, right? Made their profits look better, right? Everybody ate, right? But anyway, God don't do that with the heart. Instead, the first blood vessel coming out of the heart, the aorta, the first blood vessel coming off the aorta is the coronary artery. Right coronary artery, left coronary artery, and watch. These red arteries then go down into the myocardium and form capillary beds in the myocardium of the heart, and that's where they get their oxygen food. So they do not get the food as if they're pumping it, but they get the front of the line, the very first blood vessel to come off the aorta comes back and feeds the heart. And that's a big concept I want y'all to know. Right? That's super important, right? So cardiovascular disease is when these blood vessels clog up. Okay, and you get blockage in here. And that means everybody below that dies. And if you have blockage in your left ventricle, which is called the widowmaker, then you are going to meet your maker today. Unless you get to the hospital very quickly. Now, 10 years ago, they would come in with a rotor-rooter and do the angioplasty where they knock that clot out. They don't even do that anymore because guess what happens? There's scar tissue, nothing clots right back up. So they have to give you drugs all the time. The big thing now is the stents. They can literally, one of my friends who's by my age started hurting. They carried him up to bed. They went, I think, went to Methodist last year. They put 2 stents in him, and he went home the next day. 15 years ago, they cut him open and did triple bypass, and he'd be recovering from open heart surgery. So I even went and saw him and asked him if they just went and throw about 4 in me anyway, just go give me a start. Give me the early warning stent, right? I mean, but these are meshes that go in and keep these open, and then they have chemicals that prevent coagulation, prevent clots from forming on them. So that's pretty cool. And we'll see the circuitry in a minute. So there are the two right and left coronary arteries, and then the veins come out, and that's the blue coming out, and the veins come out of the myocardium, and then all dump back into the vena cavas or the pulmonary. So it's the coronary sinus. So the blood goes into the heart. The heart muscle cells get their nutrients and food, oxygen, and then blue, unoctated blood comes out and gets put right back into the vena cavas. Is that not the coolest thing ever? So this is how the heart cells get their food. Well, and actually, I may write down one thing I don't like about the book here. They didn't do a real good flow chart of the blood going into the four branches that you can see there's 4 major blood vessels. So you see anybody has more than 4 stents put in or quadruple bypass, that means all 4 of their arteries are clogged. And what they do, they'll take a vein out of your leg, look, and bring it up. And so you got a blockage here, and they'll put the tube here and tie the other end here and bypass the clot and just leave it alone. I had one friend who had a stent put in and he had a heart attack because the stent clogged off the blood flow and stopped the blood going over here. So they had to go back in real quick and move that stent. And he was okay after that. So is that not cool? This is really very important stuff here. Hopefully you're catching some of this. Okay. All right. So we'll move on. Oh, gotta cut these off. Sorry. So we'll move on through. Here's one of my favorite pictures in the book. Here's a real cadaver heart. And these are all in the AP reveal right in the heart. You can look at that. And you can see the aorta here coming out. Notice that it comes from the left ventricle over here, and the pulmonary trunk is kind of over it. So this is kind of the cool things you're going to see in lab. So the pulmonary trunk is what I look for to key on because the aorta is up under it. Okay, and then the left is always in the tip. So the apex of the heart is in the left ventricle. You can see the coronary blood vessels, and the little atriums here, little sacs, are deflated, obviously, and that's what we'll be seeing in lab. Back of it, there's that coronary sinus where all these veins drain in. Right? Pretty cool. Okay, and then we've already talked about the chambers. There's a cool picture showing that left side is thicker than the right because it's got to pump all the way to the body. Okay. Another cool structure, I failed to mention there, was the chordae tendineae and the papillary muscle. This is we got a picture of that right here. Now this is what we'll attempt to do in lab. We're going to try to cut the hearts and make it look like this. So we're going to do a sagittal cut, anterior posterior cut, and try to pull it into 2 halves that look like this. Maybe get a grade on your table on how well you and your partner cut that heart. That's always fun. It turns into a fight because the partners will start fighting, right? When the other partner screws it up. It costs them a grade, you know. But take a look. Here it is cut. You can see right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle, interventricular septum. Okay. And then here is this is really hard to do, cut like that. There's a pulmonary similar valve, and there's the aortic similar valve under it coming to that red tube. So you kind of get your three-dimensional look here. Notice that these things are like guitar strings are called chordae tendineae, and they attach the tricuspid and bicuspid valve to a muscle stub at the bottom of the ventricle called the papillary muscle. And the purpose of these is to prevent the valves from going back the other way when the heart contracts. So when the heart contracts, look what happens. I think it's let me get a pen up here. Okay, here we go. So when these contract, these start to squeeze in, right? The blood's going to want to go back up, and so that slams shut. That slams shut, forcing the blood out here and through the aortic cylinder valve. So these are like door stops to prevent the door from going back both ways, right? If this is the ventricle and this is the hall of the atrium, right? I would be a quarter in there right here to let the blood in, right? But not let it blow back the other way, right? When this contracts. So it's a door stop to prevent the blood from going back up. So a lot of people have a leaky valve. One of the most common problems with people's heart is a good general practitioner doctor with a stethoscope can hear a valve problem, okay? And they can tell if that blood is flowing back in the atrium, okay? And you may have to have surgery. I had several friends have the tricuspid or bicuspid valve fixed, okay? Or the semilunar valve if you get leakage and it blows back in, okay? All right, let's mention another term here. I probably won't do this aloud because we're going to be pushed for loud with our 50-minute classes. So I'll go ahead and do one of my favorite terms. Why do we have two freaking names for everything in AFB? Let me get y'all's nerve. Okay, so bicuspid gets its name because it has two flaps, right? I got that. So I've been teaching this, and I hope I think this is one of my better lectures, right? Because I've done this 100,000 times. I do know this material, okay? Don't ask me about, fungi and maybe biology. I'm not a fungi guy, okay? But anyway, but I love the blood flow. And so one day I did all that in the lab, wrote it all out, and explained it, which I think I've done a pretty good job here. Watch a little video of it. And then Ashton, one of my students, or somebody that knows me, raised her hand and go, you can do this. I can see one of y'all, several of y'all do it. She's not afraid to ask questions. Go, okay, Mr. Know-it-all, smarty pants. Got this crap down. What's micro? And I froze. This is like year 5 of teaching. And I'm like, I have no idea what the crap micro is. It's just what the book says, and that's it. What does that word mean? So if it'd been a smart aleck, I would have made up something. Because sometimes teachers make up stuff just to make y'all, put you in your place. But this was a sincere, be like one of y'all asking me sincerely, what does micro mean? And I would sincerely look back and say, I don't have a damn clue. I do not know. Let me go look it up. I'll come back. So this is before internet. This is way before internet. So I went home and got this thing that y'all never seen called encyclopedia. Have you ever heard of dictionary? Y'all know what dictionary is? Okay, I'm going to back up, but in a book form. I'm saying that, but I got kids that don't. I bet people go like, what? I said, it's like Wikipedia printed out in a book. So I looked up the word micro, and guess what the first definition said? Valve between, second name for valve between left atrium and left atrium. No, that's what I just told them. I don't want to know that. Second definition, to look like a miter. Now we're getting somewhere. So back up in my dictionary to miter, and here's what I found in the book. It was a picture of a dude. It was a guy wearing a hat like this with a cross on it. And I thought, now I'm not Catholic, Protestant. And so the hat that has a little, and so somebody looking at this 100 years ago called it miter because it looked like a hat that he saw at church. Now I run back to that class the next week with my newfound knowledge and said, Pope hat. And one of my little Catholic girls jumped all over me. Pope don't wear miter. I'm like, okay. Not the Pope hat, it's the Cardinal's hat. And I'm really mad because when I go to church, we don't have cool names like Pope, Cardinal. We don't get to wear any hat, by the way. It's a band. And I'm a hat guy. You see me at Walmart, I'm wearing a grizzly hat all the time. When I get home, first thing I do is put a hat on. Because my hair is ugly, I need a haircut, and I know it. There's COVID, and my girl don't think it's real. My haircut girl, I love her definitely. She's a little bit out there on the COVID. She's on that spectrum of the Trump's going to be anointed president on Thursday. You know what I'm saying? Still think he's going to be president. Okay, got to move forward, people. That's over, right? Got to get past all that. But isn't that cool? So it looked like a hat worn by, I thought that was better than that. Nobody's smiling. I got 2 smiles. Melissa's smiling, her mask, she's smiling. And some of my other favorite people in this room are looking at me like I'm crazy. So we'll move on. Okay, but that's a true story. Miter. Yeah, they must have dropped a whole lot of community wine to see that too, by the way, because I've never seen that hat when looking at it. Okay. All right, let's do another phone one here since I got y'all really attention now. We got about 5 minutes left. But how many of y'all have heard of the fin-fin redux situation? This will be a phone in this one. I'll finish them off. Okay. But okay, so here's what happened. So about 1995, I think it's one of the big ones. I think it's one of the big, one of the big pharmaceutical companies. I'm talking about Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Pfizer, somebody big, I think it's Pfizer, but I'm not sure. One of the big boys come out with the miracle weight loss drug. Okay, now fen-phen was two drugs. One of them was ephedrine, which is speed, which has now been banned because it speeds up your metabolism. And the other one made you not feel hungry all the time, made you feel full. And so an obese person like me could go get a prescription for this, and you would lose 10 to 15% of your body weight in a year just taking this pill. Every woman in America was taking this thing. Okay, long story short. Okay, real popular. My wife took it for 6 months. When we went and got her prescription, my best friend, the doctor, said, you know, you did read the background on this, didn't you? He said, no, there is a warning with it because it can cause pulmonary hypertension. Okay, let me explain what that is. Pulmonary hypertension is when the blood pressure gets too high in the pulmonary trunk. Now, what we're checking is arterial blood pressure. This is the next chapter we'll talk about. We're checking for arterial blood pressure in your arm. There's no way to check this without having a sonogram being done, you know, at a hospital on a stress test. And when that pressure gets too high, it blows the little capillaries in the alveoli and you die. So hypertension, pulmonary hypertension is real dangerous, but you just kind of monitor it. Okay, my wife took that, and then a huge discovery was made. This is blew everybody's mind. For some reason, we don't know why, this pill caused people to form a plaque on the tricuspid valve and killed a bunch of people's valves. So a bunch of obese, not just say obese, just a little bit overweight men and women end up having to have open heart surgery and have that valve replaced. It is and then the lawsuit that came after that was the largest single malpractice lawsuit in the history of American medical and legal practices. Now, I'm not talking about cigarettes, man, that's bigger, but that ain't about medical. This is a drug problem. The company has billions, and they took like $1 billion and stuck it in a bank and paid everybody. So if you got in on the first round of this, there was a matrix online you could go to, and basically they offered a free cardiology exam for everybody that proved they took the pill. And based on the damage that they found in your heart, you could get up to millions of dollars. Or you could deny it and not take it and sue yourself. But I said, don't take the money because you don't ever know if they do fair bankruptcy, nobody gets nothing, right? The people who made asbestos, nobody got any money. I think this mammal went chapter 11, and so nobody can sue for asbestos, long story. So I'm teaching night class at DeSoto. This is about 20 years ago. And I walk out the car, and it always bothers me because I mean, we don't make a lot of money as teachers, but I should have a car probably as nice as most students. What do you think? I'm just saying, you know, but I've noticed that y'all all drive in a car because I'm driving a 20-year truck because I just pay for it. I pay for it. But anyway, so I'm out walking out with this is a night class. I get to know y'all. We walk out. Sometimes we go eat. I go eat with the group, you know. So I walked out, and one of the coolest guys that was always smiling, always laughing, buying everybody dinner. He goes out and has to pull his ladder down to get in his Hummer that he had put the big tires, like tractor tires on, and made it 10 foot off the ground. So I'm talking $80,000, $100,000 even back then. I'm like, dude, what? Gee, I wish my mom and dad had that kind of money. He goes, oh, I didn't get this way. He said, my wife was taking fen-phen Redux. So she's fat, overweight, and when we start breathing heavy, she went and checked the mailbox. So I got in on the first round of this. They went in and she had a valve so screwed up that they got to check like on January 1st when you're like $1.4 million. Plus the medical to pay for the fix the valve. And I said, you took the money, did you? He said, you see my truck? And he went back to being a nurse. Now here's the part that's beautiful. She could have been born with that problem. There's no way to prove the drug didn't cause it. So everybody who had a heart problem got some money. Because you can't prove the drug didn't do it. So you could have been eating grease, eating bad KFC, be as fat as me, and had a bad valve, but if you took that pill, you got money. So what do y'all think I did in the second round? Took my wife, we got in that thing, my cousin's a lawyer, man, we go shoot below, they do the heart cath, they put you on a treadmill, they run you, they do all kind of crap, man. I'm like, I don't want her to die, but can we have a $200,000 heart murmur? Because like 15% everybody get a little heart murmur, a little extra sound, like a little ching in there. That's my favorite. So her heart is fine. We got the money reimbursed for 6 months of pills and a free cardiology exam. But we just had a $300,000 paid house all little murmur. Okay, that's a true story. So she's good. She's good. Y'all have a good day. I'll do the rest of it in my office. We'll try to finish this chapter. It's a good chapter here. Y'all have a good day. Be nice to your teachers. And be nice to your students. You don't know who's driving the Hummer.